I never thought my little sister could outsmart 5 grown adults, but last year, our family sat her down for a surprise intervention, because we were convinced she was hiding something huge. At the time, we thought we were doing the right thing. Now, after Emma's bombshell revelation, I realize how completely wrong we were. The story of that night still gets told at every family gathering, but I'm not sure anyone really gets just how cleverly Emma played us all. Stick around, because by the end, you'll see why my parents, my brother, and I will never underestimate Emma again. So, let me set the scene. In our house, Emma's always been the baby. She's the youngest by a good 7 years, and for as long as I can remember, that meant she was either being doted on or completely ignored. Growing up, she was the one who needed help tying her shoes, who got away with stuff no one else could, who could make Dad break into a smile just by pouting. But she was also the little one, the kid no one took seriously, even as she got older. Our family is tight but loud, the kind where everyone thinks they know best. Mom's the worrier, Dad's a fixer, and then there's me, stuck somewhere between older sibling and accidental therapist. Add my older brother Josh, sarcastic, thinks he's hilarious, and you've got a house that's never quiet for long. Emma, though, she's always been quieter, but don't mistake that for weakness. I should have realized that sooner. It started subtly, but even looking back, I can't pinpoint the exact moment things began to feel off with Emma. She was 16 and usually glued to her phone like any other teenager, but this was different. She started locking her bedroom door, which was new, she'd never cared before. I'd pass by her room and hear her whispering on the phone, voice low and urgent, pausing mid-sentence if she heard footsteps. At dinner, she'd show up late or not at all, mumbling something about homework, grabbing food, disappearing upstairs before anyone could ask questions. Mom noticed first. Has Emma seemed off to you? She'd asked me one night, worry lines deep on her forehead. Dad shrugged it off, but I could tell he was watching Emma closer, especially after she missed Sunday dinner for the 3rd week in a row. Josh joked that she was probably plotting to dye her hair blue or join a cult. We all laughed, but I caught Mom glancing at Emma's door with real concern. The tension started to build. Every locked door, every missed family movie night, seemed to confirm our fears. Was she in trouble? Was she hiding something? One afternoon, Mom cornered me in the kitchen. We need to do something. She's slipping away from us. Dad, usually content to let us figure things out, finally agreed. She's acting like she doesn't trust us. Even Josh stopped joking, which was when I knew it was serious. So, we decided to confront her together. Not an ambush, exactly, more like an intervention. The word itself made my stomach twist, but we all convinced ourselves it was what good families do. Mom wanted to write letters. Josh said that was way too dramatic. Dad wanted just an honest talk. We settled on calling Emma downstairs one evening, no warning, and hashing things out as a family. The day of the intervention, I remember the air in the house felt dense, like a storm was brewing. I kept checking my phone, watching the minutes crawl by. Mom paced the hallway. Dad sat on the couch folding and unfolding his hands. Josh was uncharacteristically quiet, tapping at his phone, avoiding eye contact. I kept replaying every weird moment with Emma over the past month. What if we were about to catch her in some kind of real trouble? Drugs? A boyfriend she knew we wouldn't approve of? Maybe she was being bullied and too embarrassed to ask for help. The possibilities kept spiraling. Finally, Emma came home. I could hear the front door creak, her footsteps up the stairs. Dad called out, his voice too cheerful. Emma, come down here for a minute, okay? She poked her head in, hair mussed, one eyebrow raised. What's up? She asked, her tone wary but not scared. We just want to talk, Mom said, trying to sound casual. We all sat in the living room, Dad in his faded armchair, Josh on the floor, Mom and I sharing the couch, Emma standing in the doorway like she was ready to bolt. The silence was awkward. I could hear the faint hum of the fridge in the kitchen, the distant rumble of a neighbor's lawnmower. Outside, the last bits of sunlight were slipping through the blinds, painting stripes across the carpet. No one seemed to know how to start. Finally, Dad cleared his throat. We're worried about you, Em. Emma looked at each of us, her face totally blank. Why? Josh tried to lighten the mood. You've been acting like a secret agent. Locked doors, mysterious phone calls, skipping dinner. Spill. Emma stared at him, then shrugged. I'm fine. Really? Mom's voice trembled. Honey, you don't have to pretend. We're your family. If something's wrong, if you're in trouble, we want to help. Emma sat down on the edge of the coffee table. She didn't fidget. She didn't protest. She just looked thoughtful. So, this is like an intervention or something? I felt my cheeks flush. We care about you. You've been acting different. She nodded slowly, picking at her sleeve. Okay, well, what do you want to know? I glanced at Josh, then Mom. This was not how I imagined she'd react. No tears, no outrage. She was calm, almost amused. I realized my hands were sweating, gripping a throw pillow so hard my knuckles ached. Dad leaned forward. We just want the truth, Emma, whatever it is. She smiled, tiny, controlled. You want the truth, she repeated. Her eyes flicked from one of us to the next. I couldn't read her at all. It felt like the living room shrank around us. No one spoke. The clock on the mantel clicked so loudly it might as well have been a countdown. And then Emma said, okay, but I think you might be surprised. Something about the way she said it sent shivers up my spine. I had no idea what was about to happen, but for the first time, I wondered if maybe, just maybe, we were the ones about to get blindsided. Emma sat on the edge of the floral loveseat, her legs swinging just above the rug as our whole family faced her. The air in our living room was heavy with a mix of anxious energy and embarrassment. No one wanted to speak first, but everyone was thinking the same thing. What is Emma hiding? Mom finally broke the silence, her voice gentle but strained. Emma, sweetheart, we just want to know if you're okay. If there's anything you want to talk about, we're here. Emma didn't shrink or fidget. She looked right at Mom, then at each of us in turn, Dad, our older brother Mike, and me, her expression polite, almost amused. She nodded, hands folded neatly in her lap. I appreciate it, Mom, really, she said, her voice calm, not a trace of panic. The only sound was the soft tick of the grandfather clock by the window and the faint hum of the dishwasher running in the kitchen. It was unsettling. I expected tears, protests, anger, anything but this serene composure. Mike tried to soften the moment, running a hand through his hair. We're not mad, okay? We just noticed you've been acting kinda different. She tilted her head, feigning curiosity. Different how? She asked. Her eyes glinted, but not in a way I could pin down. Was she playing dumb? Or did she really not know? Dad coughed, clearing his throat. He shifted in his recliner, papers rustling on his lap. We've seen you up late, using the printer, and, you seemed pretty upset when your notebook went missing. He glanced at me, as if hoping I'd jump in to back him up. Emma just nodded again, her lips pursed in thought. I've had some projects for school. I needed to print a lot. And I was frustrated about the notebook because it had some ideas I didn't want to lose. She spoke in that same infuriatingly even tone, never confirming or denying, giving us just enough to keep us guessing. Mom pressed her, voice trembling. Emma, is there anything you want to tell us? Anything at all? A soft, almost imperceptible smile played at the corner of Emma's mouth. No, not really, but I appreciate you all worrying about me. The words were so polite, so deliberately neutral, that they only deepened our unease. My palms felt clammy against my jeans. Mike started bouncing his knee, sending vibrations through the couch. Dad sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. Well, if you ever do want to talk about something, anything, we're here. Emma's gaze flicked to him, eyes almost twinkling, and she nodded in agreement. She was handling this whole thing better than any of us. As the conversation dragged on, I noticed a tremor in Mom's hand as she pushed a stray hair behind her ear. The tension in the room swirled like a fog, thick and suffocating, but Emma just sat in the eye of the storm, unmoved. That's when my brain started rewinding, going back over the last week, trying to make sense of the clues that brought us here. Most of them pointed to something big, but when I really looked at them, none fit together quite right. The first weird thing happened late one Tuesday evening. I couldn't sleep and was wandering to the kitchen for a glass of water when I saw blue light flickering under Emma's door. The faint whir of the printer echoed down the hall, punctuated by the plastic clatter of printed pages landing in the output tray. She was up way past midnight, and when I knocked, she called out, "Just a sec." Her voice sounded too chipper for the hour. I let it go, figuring it was homework. The next morning, I spotted her spiral notebook, the bright yellow one with the sticker of a winking cat, missing from her backpack. She used to clutch that thing like a diary, always scribbling or doodling in it. I asked her about it over breakfast, the smell of toast and coffee filling the kitchen. Oh, it's probably in my room somewhere, she said, not looking up from her cereal. But in the days that followed, she seemed restless, peeking into corners and closets, eyes scanning for something. Then there was the old family computer, the beige brick we'd barely touched in years, tucked away in the den behind a stack of board games. I caught Emma using it one afternoon, fingers flying over the dusty keyboard. The soft click-clack echoed in the quiet room. Why aren't you using your laptop? I asked. She shrugged. School stuff. Needed this for, compatibility. She closed the browser window just a bit too fast as I walked up. All week, these details stacked up in my mind, refusing to fit together. Printing late at night, missing notebook, resurrected computer. Either she was working on a secret project, or she was hiding something more alarming. I tried to shake the images from my mind, but they lingered, persistent and unresolved. The smell of Dad's cologne mixed with the faint lemon from the furniture polish as I watched him stand up from his chair, frustration etched on his face. "Emma, I'm sorry, but I have to check your backpack," he said, voice tight but not unkind. Emma didn't flinch, in fact, she didn't even protest. "Go ahead," she replied, pushing her backpack across the coffee table with practiced nonchalance. If she was worried, she hid it well. Dad unzipped each pocket slowly, the nylon fabric rasping under his hands. He pulled out textbooks, an empty water bottle, some loose pens, nothing unusual. Then, from the bottom compartment, he lifted out a plastic folder, the kind you'd buy in a back-to-school aisle. It was locked with a flimsy combination padlock. Mom gasped softly, one hand flying to her mouth. "Emma, what's in there?" she asked. Emma just shrugged, folding her arms. "You can open it if you want." Dad hesitated, then spun the combination dial. The tumblers clicked, and the padlock popped open. Inside, there was nothing but a single folded slip of paper. He pulled it out, the paper crinkling between his fingers. I leaned in, the scent of printer ink still lingering. Dad read aloud. "Sometimes, what you seek is just a mirror." He looked at us, puzzle written all over his face. Mike let out a groan. "What does that even mean?" Emma sat perfectly still, her lips pressed together to avoid smiling. She was enjoying this, maybe a little too much. The folder, the note, the locked compartment, it all felt like a performance, or a test we were failing. For the first time, I saw uncertainty flicker across Mom's face. Maybe we're overreacting," she whispered to Dad. "Maybe it's just a school thing." Dad didn't look so sure. "But the notebook, the computer," he started, but Emma cut in smoothly, "I promise, it's nothing dangerous." The sun was setting by the time we finished our awkward investigation, golden light casting long stripes across the living room carpet. Emma stood and stretched, then headed for the stairs, leaving the cryptic note and the empty folder behind as if she'd already forgotten about them. That night, after dinner, I lay awake in my room, the house quiet except for the occasional floorboard creaking as someone got a glass of water. I was replaying everything, Emma's calm, the empty folder, the weird note, when I heard a soft giggle from the hallway. My door was cracked open a sliver, letting in a slice of lamplight. I sat up, heart pounding. I slipped out of bed and padded quietly to Emma's door, pressing my ear against the wood. Her voice floated through, hushed and excited, punctuated by soft laughter. "Yeah, I put the empty folder in there. They totally bought it," she whispered. There was a pause, then another giggle. "No, the second folder is hidden. No way they'll find it." My blood ran cold. Who was she talking to? What was the real secret? I ducked away from the door just as her laughter faded. My mind raced, every possible scenario playing out at once. Was she in trouble, or was this all some elaborate prank? I barely slept, the image of her smirking lips stuck in my head. The next morning, I cornered her in the hallway as she fumbled with her shoelaces, the morning light catching dust motes in the air. "Emma, we need to talk," I said, my voice sharper than I meant it to be. She looked up, eyes wide but not surprised. "About what?" "Last night, I heard you. You said there's a second folder. You said we bought it. What's really going on?" My hands were trembling, but I pushed them into my pockets. Emma paused, then smiled, not her usual, impish grin, but something older, almost conspiratorial. "Okay," she whispered, glancing around to make sure we were alone. "I'll tell you part of it." She leaned closer, her voice so low I had to strain to hear. "I staged some of it. The printing, the missing notebook, the locked folder. I wanted to see what you'd do, how far you'd go to figure me out." She laughed softly, the sound warm against the morning hush. "Wait, you did this on purpose?" I asked, almost offended, but more impressed. "Yep," she said, tying her shoe and standing up. "You guys jumped to conclusions so fast. It was like a science experiment." I stared at her, feeling the floor sway beneath my feet. "Is that all? Or is there still something you're not telling us?" Emma just winked, slinging her backpack over one shoulder. "Maybe," she teased, "but you'll have to wait and see." As she headed downstairs, I realized she'd turned the whole family into players in her own private game. And whatever the real secret was, she still wasn't done surprising us. I stared at Emma, my mouth hanging open, as she cleared her throat and reached into her backpack. The tension in the living room was brittle, like we were all holding our breath. I thought she was finally going to confess to sneaking out or whatever it was we'd accused her of. But instead, she pulled out a thick folder labeled Family Dynamics, an observational study. "Wait, what?" I blurted, half laughing, half scared. Emma grinned. "I knew you guys thought I was hiding something, so I decided to run a little experiment for psychology class. You know, see how a family responds to suspicion and secrets." She flipped open the folder, pages rustling. I took notes on everything. The way Mom kept bracing herself by the counter, how Dad's eyebrow twitch meant he was about to go full lawyer mode, even how you, Mark, kept checking your phone like you expected a dramatic reveal any second. I felt my face flush. You used this for a school project? She nodded, totally unfazed. I even made a chart for the different intervention scenarios I thought you might try. Version 1. The stern sit down. Version 2. The, we love you, no matter what, approach. You guys went for a combo. Mom pulled her reading glasses off and blinked. Emma, are you serious? You wrote this all down? Emma handed her the folder, giggling. Page 4 is the best part. That's where Mark tried to secretly record the conversation, but his phone was upside down the whole time. She gave me a sly side eye. The room exploded in laughter. I groaned, sinking into the couch. I can't believe you noticed that. She shrugged. You're not as sneaky as you think, big bro. And Dad's interrogation was classic. Did you know you always tap your pen 3 times before you ask a tough question? She mimicked his stern voice perfectly. Emma, is there something you'd like to tell us? Dad tried to protest but cracked up, his laugh booming off the walls. Emma's findings were both brutal and hilarious. Apparently, Mom's go-to move was over-offering snacks as a distraction. She'd tallied 5 different types of cookies within 10 minutes. And when our cousin Ava jumped in on FaceTime to offer support, Emma had written, Ava's advice, pretend to cry, they'll fold faster. Everyone took turns reading pieces of the project, and soon we were all clutching our sides. The tension from that day had vanished, replaced by this warmth and awe for Emma's cleverness. Even the dog, Murphy, who'd been hovering for dropped food, seemed impressed by the commotion. Dad finally wiped his eyes, still chuckling. So let me get this straight. You orchestrated the most stressful afternoon of our year for a homework assignment? Emma grinned wider, and it got an A-+. Mrs. Ramirez said it was the most thorough and entertaining case study she'd ever read. Mom shook her head, laughing. All this time I thought you were hiding something serious. Turns out, you were just hiding how much smarter you are than the rest of us. For a moment, we all just looked at her, the youngest in the family, always a little quiet, always watching. I realized then I'd underestimated her more than anyone. She hadn't just fooled us, she'd observed us, documented us, and then managed to bring us closer together through the reveal. Emma leaned back, sipping her tea, looking every bit the evil genius. Next time, maybe don't assume the worst, okay? Or at least try to be sneakier about it. I smiled, holding up my hands. Message received. Never doubt the little sister again. Dad nodded, mock serious. From now on, all family meetings must be Emma approved. She's clearly the mastermind. Mom laughed, hugging Emma, and Murphy finally got a cookie for his patience. Our cousin Ava texted, I'm officially scared of Emma now, with like 6 laughing emojis. That night, as we cleaned up, I kept thinking about how easy it is to see only what you expect in someone. How quickly you can build a whole story that might be completely wrong. Emma taught us to look closer, to trust a little more, and to never, ever try to outsmart her. Because, honestly, after that day, none of us would ever stand a chance.